I think this has always been about stories, and hopefully the cards here, and incidentally, I think I only have 14 cards, and I haven't counted, but I think there might be more than 14 of the direct descendant cousins here. So if you haven't filled out your card, we're going to find out who it is. Give you during our meal time to complete one here. But one of the stories that I think needs to be told every time for every reunion is about, suppose if you actually heard it, is that would be great-grandpa Wrightsky came initially, was in 1883, and spent a little time in northwest Iowa, and then he came out here and said, why should I stay in Iowa and pay $10 an acre for land when I can come to South Dakota and have all I want for nothing? If he only knew. See what one decision, though, how many people it affects here, can make quite a difference for a lot of folks there. That's a fun time. You know, David, help me just a minute. Our meals here are close, but he's got the tape. So we're going to stand up. Oh, here's that's what I'm looking for a while ago. So Jacob and Hattie, we call first generation. They started it all, and we can take these up on the. If you got them.
Somebody took my tape.
Somebody took his tape. Okay. The second generation had 10. The third generation, 83. If we if I count correctly. Okay, let's do it this way too. The first generation, of course, I got to say some of that, but over here, one of the second generation is here. So we're going to want each generation to stand up a bit. So we'll at least have hands that are standing. Okay, now all that are in the third generation, the 38.
Including spouses.
Good, yeah, stand up. That goes all the way from Alan to... See, then we're talking about genealogy later. Now we know that's the third generation. Okay. Then it's generation 4, and the count that we have is 95. So let's see 95 people stand up. Who would do that? That's great. That's a good group here. That's right. And generation 5, we count at this point 93. So who stands up to generation 5? There we go. All right. Yeah. That's great. Generation 6, at this point, we count 8, but I think we're going to have to talk about that one a little bit later. Are any of the next generation here tonight at all? Okay, but we're starting that next generation, which really is pretty remarkable there. So. Okay, we've got a lot more stories we're going to spend time with, but everybody's looking at the food there. So, but before we do, we want to just say grace together, and Ruth is going to help us do that, and remember to do some of the other family members here.
I guess as a family, we are particularly remember that Dean is not with us this year. And so we thought that with the prayer, it would be a good idea to just commemorate those that we know that are not living with us anymore. I sometimes have trouble with thinking about that they are not with us, and then when I think back generations and thinking about our salvation and our hope in the future, then it's our loss, but it's their gain, and it's easier to think about. So during my prayer, we're going to have a table grace first, but if you'll just mention, just randomly, someone of the family that you are missing. And as I thought of this, if it's grandpa and grandma, or if it's, you know, a child of yours, or a spouse or something, just, if you just call them out in name, and I will just pause for a time as we remember those that have lived before us.
Okay.
So,
Now, Fred's going to lead us here first. Sure.
You want to all stand for him? We're going to sing Praise God from Whom All Blessings Flow. Most of you know that. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you this evening, I want to thank you first for the safe travel and those that are able to be with us here tonight. But we are also mindful of those that have gone before us, that are now with the Lord. We thank you for our heritage and the path that we have been led on to remember who you are. And so at this time, we just want to commemorate those that are not here. And as a family, we want to thank you for Dean's life and who he has done to us.
Arlene and Norman.
Alan.
John and Marie.
Richard and Allie and Sam. Christopher. My parents, brothers and sisters. Christopher.
Lord, we just thank you for these lives. We thank you for the privilege that it was ours to have known them, to have loved them, and to be loved by them. Lord, we recognize that you are our hope, that you are the guide of our life, and who's gathered here together these next few days. We desire to have your grace and your mercy with us, that you will bless us with fellowship that carries us with new and fresh memories of those we have known and those that we are learning to know as other generations come before us. And we ask we are mindful of those that cannot be with us for various reasons. And it's comforting to us to know that not only are you here in our present, but you are also with them. And just to be the confidence that we can have in you, that you are that awesome, everywhere present, always present, and always with us, and always caring about us. So at this time, we ask you to bless this food and this fellowship. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. I might say, you can have a seat there. I might say also that I'm aware that there are several that are needing our special prayers also, that receive in the hospital and some of those things. And we want to remember some of those, especially on Sunday. So if you could get some of those names to me too that I would not be aware of, so that we can do that. So sometime this evening or tomorrow, time before Sunday, let's get a list then that we can remember our prayers then too. I think it's time to eat. Bonnie, are there any special instructions?
When they get over here, I'll tell them what to do.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. I think I'm going to be a little bit selfish, and our table will go first so that I can, be back up here. But then maybe what we'll do is go this table, that table, that table, that table, and that table. Would that work out? And keep that one straight. Then I will make sure I get the table before Harold does. So there will be some left over.
My table's got to go first. I need help with the genealogy. It's pretty remarkable. If you see that, it's good. That's good. They're the same thing. But that's 13 pages of descendants and their spouses of Jacob and Hetty Wolbrink. And I kind of like putting that together, and I think it's kind of fun to see how amazing it is. But I'm stalled out. If you ever fly an airplane and you lose speed, you're in trouble. And I'm losing speed. The last reunion and this reunion, I need help to regain that speed. So give me those of the 4th and 5th and 6th generation, and I'll fill them in and put them together. And you have my address. I have things to pass out. And the other thing is there's a tree chart, family tree chart over there. If you get a chance, find your name on it and just put your initials by it. And then we'll keep that and see who was here this time from that family tree. But also notice those that are missing and go to work on it on the sheets that I have for you. Thank you.
Okay, let's eat. everybody is obviously having a pretty good time talking. We do have a little more organization. We're going to have to find out about these cards. I've been told that if you would like to help with the dishes, you can just bring them all over to the trash cans there and put the trays in the window there. Type things, Rose, where she has some little coloring, painting type fun things for the littler kids there. If they kind of are bored with all of our adult talking, they can go over here with them and have a good time. And she also is planning some games and activities for them. I think we're planning that in the park, seeing just what the weather and so on is like tomorrow afternoon there. And tomorrow, I think that we'll again have lunch here at about noon, which the way the weather is, that's going to be kind of nice, even though we really kind of do enjoy the out of the doors and the great plains here, but we also are kind of the Yale level where we appreciate the air conditioning and haven't seen any flies flying around inside here. So it's kind of nice to have lunch here. And then after lunch, the ladies only can stay here, and Fran is going to do one of the little talks that she has done in the past on ladies unmentionables. And then over at the park we'll have, sometime in the afternoon we'll have ice cream. And I have done some hand making of wooden shoes, to learn how to do that, and so I've brought some of my equipment and so on to do that, and we'll set that up over at the park as well. So mostly talking and that type of thing, and I've talked about maybe having some games for some of the adults too, the group maybe we'll have. So a few other activities going on tomorrow. And then of course Sunday morning we'll have a worship service for the Wolbrink clan at the North Church. My understanding is that if it's really warm, we may share that. There are already 2 meeting areas, and so the usual congregation will use one of it, and we will have the other section. But you go to the North Church and at 10 o'clock Sunday morning, and you'll be able to find out where that is. So, housekeeping type things. As talking about this and getting ready, I think some of the stories that we have shared and so on over the years that we remember are really the highlights of the times. But hearing some of those stories from the generations in the past. We sometimes, they call it the olden days, are really good. I think one of the stories that I really remember, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, because it's been told multiple times before, but I think it's one that should be told is worth telling at least at every reunion, was by Uncle Junior, who was such a good storyteller. And he said that the ladies of the church always had a big event
the chicken salad luncheon every summer. It was a major event for the church. But it got to be some of the dry years during the 30s where there were fewer and fewer chickens around. And so the preacher came and asked, well, how'd you do? Well, we found enough chickens this year for doing it, but yeah, that tastes really good, he said. Well, the next year they said, yeah, it was pretty difficult, but we did find some chickens yet, so yeah, that's pretty good. You must maybe had to use a whole chicken, but it really is pretty good. Well, things didn't improve, so the next year, chickens were in even more scarce supply, and he came and tasted it and says, oh, that's not too bad. Now, how in the world did you do that with still a few chickens around? I said, well, we had to mix in a little horse meat. And, well, you know, that's pretty amazing. It's amazing how good it tastes, even with that. So how much horse meat did you have to use? Well, it's about half and half. 1 chicken and 1 horse. And a lot of you have heard that before and are still laughing. And I liked it too. And those of you who don't know, he really was a storyteller. Got to the point of actually doing it professionally for some special events and so on. And I understand even for the governor invited him, they had some event to do it. And so he has been recorded a couple of times to do it. And we have brought a couple of those along. We'll see just how time goes. We'll try and play a section of one of them probably a little later. But then afterward, you know, see some of these talking, and we'll also take, I think, our family group pictures as much as we can tonight. And so during some of that time, we can be running the tape. So if you're not involved in, you know, some of the other talking and or the pictures or so, well, we can be watching that too. And we'll have that set up tomorrow too. So, you know, come early for lunch or however, so you can get in on some of that there. But, you know, I think the other part of it is that we also recognize that the junior's not here, and some of those other generations are not here as much, but each one of us does have a story. And some of us kind of run out of stories, but some of our children and children's children have stories too. And I think that's really what family is all about. It's about hearing some of those stories across generations. And so we're hoping that some of the stories will come out. And these aren't the end of the stories. You know, a lot of the times we hear a lot of these stories just talking amongst each other, amongst ourselves. But the first 10, 15 minutes is, yeah, the weather's pretty hot, and what kind of car are you driving? That's what the guys talk about. And about 20 minutes later, you kind of get around to some of the other things. And so hopefully some of these other stories will be starters of conversations for some of the other informal times as well. So we're here to have a good time. It said that joy shared are twice the joy, and sorrow shared are half the sorrow. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. So, David has done a tremendous amount on this genealogy, but I want him to explain. See, I have this booklet, which I think is from 1976, that our dad did, and so I want him to tell a little bit more about what's the difference between what he's got when he sent me this packet that has 107 pages and this one.
Well, Dad was really good at cutting mimeograph stencils on his portable typewriter.
Here's a switch on.
All right.
There we go.
Can you hear me better with or without? Dad was really good at cutting mimeograph stencils with his portable typewriter. Portable typewriter, you really have to hammer on it. But he made a lot of mistakes. So you turn it up, put the correction fluid, let it dry, blow on a little bit, turn it back down, and then hit the correct key the second time, I hope. He put together that genealogy at that time using that method, and he mimeographed enough pages so that every one of his brothers and sisters and every one of his kids, and I don't know how many other people, got a copy of that genealogy in 1976. A couple years later, the PC appeared, and today I do it on a portable computer I use a program called Brother Keeper. I want to know if there's anyone else in here that's recording genealogical information. Is there anybody else? Put your hand up. Maybe we can collaborate. Do you put together on the Wolbrink group? We talked about this before. We never got to it, did we? Do you use what's it called? TreeMaker?
Let me back up here just a moment and see if that works any bigger. There's a speaker right there. Okay.
Well, okay, Ken, is there anybody else that does some of this that we should collaborate? But it's really not terribly hard if you get the information. The hard part is getting the information. That's why I'm begging you to provide that information. The second thing I want to say is, in this binder right here, there's a section about the Bakkers. And as we all know the Bakker story, I'm not going to go through that again. I think it's funnier than Crutch, but I think it's a great story. But the Bakkers have their genealogical story on the internet. And you can go and find that too. And that's how I learned about it, because one of you, I think, told me about it. I don't remember whether it was Ken or maybe it was Deb. Deb Wells does some of that stuff too. And but if you want to see it, it's here in English. So it's fun doing it. The question I have is now, okay, I've got this together. I've got this nice book. And I think you would all enjoy just sitting quietly and looking at it for a while. How do we do that? I'm looking for ideas. It might be possible to put it on a website. That's one possibility. But then updating a website is not that easy. It might be possible to have a website that has a link. Any ideas? If not, let's talk about it later.
David, I do have a question for you here, though. You've printed out this 107 pages of various family things, and then, so obviously this comes very details about each individual. And to the extent that here on this page, this is my youngest grandson, Isaac's page, supposedly gives his heritage, and right there on that line, it says that Mary Kathleen Botch weighs 421 pounds. Now, there's a lot of information in this, but is that...
Don't drive like my dresser. Those are the numbers that I use in the program. And for my own lazy convenience, I printed them out on most of these because it's easier to refer that way than it is to climb up a tree and sideways down to the next you're trying to get to. All you got to do is put the number in, and the program goes there. So that's what those numbers mean.
So that number is, so it's just me that's backwards. It's a number 421 and not 421 pounds.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You got it.
Well, I'm glad you got me straightened out there, because I didn't know that she'd like that information out there on a website there. I might need to be turned down just a little bit more here. Or maybe I should get away from the mic here too, just a little bit far. David, draw a card here. Let's see what cards have.
oxen. The idea here is that the first one who identifies the person correctly gets a prize. If you put your hand up first, then you're first. But if you put your hand up first and you're wrong, then you have to give a prize. Watch those TV game shows, don't you? Has a team of oxen walked to school for 10 years, the oldest and youngest men of the family share the same given name. Tick, 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 tick.
That's Adrian.
That Elsa knew that? I didn't really, yeah, Elsa, you get to pick a prize here. You come pick a prize. Do you want a prize?
Okay, you have to say the right answer in the microphone. Then you get a prize.
Grandpa Adrian.
Wow.
Well, I didn't really intend that my name should be first, but it maybe sets the example a little bit. There are a few trick questions in that. I have built a team of oxen as a playground equipment or setup for them. They've seen part of it, but it isn't quite there. It's in my backyard. It's going to be moved there. But I did bring pictures of the project here. So I thought that must be somebody from South Dakota who had a team of oxen there. Anybody has them, I want to talk more about how to do that. Because I've learned a lot about oxen in this process. And then we moved from Edgerton to Minneapolis. So the first 10 years I walked to school, but not after that, which makes a little bit of a trick question too. And then it is Isaac Adrian. And so he's the youngest and shares the name with us that way.
And he's named after him.
So anybody interested in seeing these pictures, they'll be out here if you care to see what the oxen and the ox cart look like.
Here's Isaac. Here he is.
There's Isaac Adrian up there. That's right. Let's see. The other thing I want to do then, though, from our family, if there are, we recognize Dean, but there are other major events within families. One of them was that Dean turned 70 just prior to his passing. There's somebody else within our family, though, within the Williams family, who has what we might call a milestone birthday. That's here. Where is she? Is Ruth in the kitchen? Oh, there she is. Okay, guys, better bring Ruth a birthday present. Gideon?
I thought this was halfway in between.
The other, well, maybe we'll save that one. A couple of them, that aren't here. Her son Ron turned 50 since the last reunion as well, so it would have been a milestone. So if he would have been here, he would have gotten a prize. Should we draw another card?
Yes.
I just turned 10. You got a family full of.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Whoever wrote this card, hold your hand up. I have canoed the Muskegon River in Michigan 3 times. Each time we went 35 miles and did not tip over once. I attended 32 weeks of Bible camp before I was married. Who do you think that is?
32 weeks. That's a lot of weeks of Bible.
I think this is a good exercise. We need to learn more about each other.
Is that? You have a guess?
Yeah. John Heisler?
No. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to read it again. I canoed the Muskegon River in Michigan. Now, who do you know comes from Michigan? Canoed the Muskegon River 3 times. Well, I guess have we stumped yet?
Looks like we have. Looks like we have. So,
I can't believe they're guessing.
Who wrote this? Adrian wrote this. You want to tell us more about canoeing the Muskegon River?
I was a counselor at the Reformed Church Bible about 80 miles north of Big Rapids, Michigan, 2 summers. Or north of Grand Rapids, it was at Big Rapids. And I was a counselor for the senior high camp. And for 3 weeks, we would go out for 2 days. And we would canoe, and we would camp along the riverbank, and we would keep on going until we reached the place where the directors came and picked us all up, in all of our gear. And so I did that for 2 summers that I was a counselor. Therefore, with all of the other Bible camps I was privileged to attend, it came to 32 weeks.
well, that's somehow you could get to 32 weeks in the You better come and pick a prize. Pick a prize. That deserves a prize. There. Let's see.
Wait a minute, don't take such a big prize. It was downstream.
That's within, let's see, part of my list here. See what notable events there are within Nellie's family. Are there, I think somebody turned 50 since the last reunion in this family, that family, in Nellie's family.
Like Anthony Carroll, Anthony Paul. Neither one of them are 50 yet.
Well, you know, what I heard was that of our generation, there are 38 of us, and all of the men are over 50. And the ladies won't admit how old they are. Is that what we're kind of running into here?
I consider it quite an achievement.
So,
I want to shout out to gals. All of the names in the genealogy. What surname, what last name turns up the most? What last name turns up the most? This is a hard question. Yes, again. Not that. Wolbrink. That's right. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Okay. That wasn't so hard. There are 80 named Wolbrink. How about what's next? This one's harder. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's Dykeshorn. There are 19 Dykeshorns. And then the next one are the Vanderleys. And there are 10 Vanderleys on the list. And I did that as an excuse to say something awfully, as nice as I can say, to Bonnie and Larry about this wonderful dinner. Let's give them a big hand. And that, if you want to know more about that delicious smoked pork, Larry will tell you.
It was, that's right. I see where the hitch may be, is how I worded. Since, I think I said since the last reunion. Now, I would mention 27 September 1964, and if anybody had a birthday then that we want to celebrate, what would happen? Well, we'll probably forget 3 years from now what our memory is, so you better come and choose a prize. You thought you were going to get by with it, but we managed there. We won't say anything about your Aunt Sarah, will we? No. Do you have any idea when her birthday is or how?
Aunt Sarah?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What year?
19.
Well, should we just bring her a prize? Is it one of those years that ends in 0 or something like that?
No, it wouldn't. Oh, yes, her birthday. Yes, I think that's yours.
Oh, okay, so maybe you just say bring her a prize and not mention which year it was. Okay. Ooh, we have another one there. Pretty good. Well, yeah, but that's different family. We'll get some of these families here. We'll get some. Okay, better draw another card.
The tradition at our house is to say the 23rd Psalm for Sunday noon devotions. My spouse and I were born and raised in different states. When someone in our family chews gum, they only take a half a piece at a time. Who might that be?
Well, there's somebody who knows. You want to get who?
I think Dwayne had a guess. Did Dwayne have a guess?
Oh.
I think it's Phyllis.
But this hand went up first over here. Credit to you. Well, you get the prize then. Come on and choose the prize. Does that need any more explanation? That's a good Dutch way to tune the gum, I think. That's a good way.
Last a month, and now put 15 sticks in a package.
You know, there.
I can say that tradition of saying the 23rd Psalm, that was something we always did at home growing up. And we carried that on with our kids. The 23rd Psalm every year.
That's a neat thing. That really is.
Dwayne used to, I don't know.
Still do.
We still do too.
That's a neat thing. That really is. That's special. That's special. That's a song that never gets old.
I don't chew gum. I haven't chewed a half a stick.
You know, there's some notable birthdays within Phyllis's family. You've got a Colin that has turned a birthday that ends in 0 since the last reunion, I believe. Yeah, so he better come up and choose a prize. 10, anybody who turns 10, that's pretty notable.
4th of July.
He's a July 4th. Very good. Very good. Great.
And I have a list here of all the birthdays of all the people in the genealogy. And there are only 2 who have a birthday on the 4th of July. You know who the other one is? Carrie. Well, Carrie was here a minute ago.
Yeah, he's still here.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, okay, great. Great. Yeah, right. Glad to see you. Good to see you here. That's right. And you be up and about. That's right.
You people all feel
praying
down.
for him.
2 weeks after having pretty extensive back surgery,
I guess.
he came just to see you all.
Yeah, that's right. So a real answer to prayer for us there. But while we're talking about birthdays, we ought to talk about who has had, what 3 people have had the most recent birthday prior to today. Have there been any birthdays that have just been the 3 people who had the last birthdays within the last? Yeah.
What day is it?
Let's see. Today is, you know, one clue is that 5 months from today will be Christmas. Doesn't feel like it. Yeah. So, any birthdays today or yesterday?
Well, if this is the 25th,
Oh, there comes a birthday girl. Did you have a birthday yesterday, Elsa June? You want to choose a prize? So did you have a birthday? All right. All right. You better choose a prize too. Lots of choices there.
and I don't know if Abby Van Hoekelen is here. Abby Van Hoekelen? I was correct, I don't know.
All right.
It's her birthday today, but she's not here.
Yep.
It was Joyce's birthday Tuesday, I think.
22nd
And
and
she turned 80. And so she is the oldest of all of us cousins.
Now everybody keep a secret.
But now you have to keep a secret.
That's till tomorrow. Nobody knows that till tomorrow.
Well, she's not here.
But we'll be tomorrow, is my understanding?
Right. We'll surprise her tomorrow.
Okay.
We have a cake.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, she's the most, so let's call it the most senior living cousin. Right.
You'll have nieces and nephews that are just about as old as you. And I thought, oh my goodness.
But the rest of that story is that there's what, 7 months difference between you, is it about?
I was just dating in December, and there's Alan, he was older than that.
Yeah. But that's quite a celebration too. You better come up and pick a prize too first. Well, you were on the list. We just hadn't gotten there. Yeah. And being that close to Joyce, I think is quite a story in itself. There. That's right. That's right. Okay.
I've been told that dumb chicken salad joke before. Now I'm going to tell one of his other dumb jokes. He says, you know how to become 100 years old? Become 99 and be very careful.
He stole that one from me.
I'm not sure I can read this correctly, but I think it says, cousin peed on our slide and it rusted. See, now we're getting down to what we really want to do. We want to get to know each other better. All right.
Who in the world would ever tell us?
All right, who's got a rusty slide?
All 7 hands go up.
Who can guess who has a rusty slide?
The fellas has got a hand.
They're my
So the rusty slide still in your yard? Can we come in? No.
So who guessed it?
Well, Phyllis, I think, yes.
Phyllis guessed it.
I said Sarah wrote it.
Sarah didn't write it. Okay.
Oh,
All right. Another guess then.
well, we're...
Anybody guess who wrote this? That a cousin peed on our slide and it rusted.
So maybe nobody will admit it either.
All right, for second prize, who peed on the slide?
Jim deserved a heart for that one.
I never remember.
Wow. Now we're really opening the club. During our married life, we have lived in five different farms, plus 2 other places. Well, the size of the prize goes down, but I'll give you the second hint. Our son, at 7 years of age, ran away from home. That could be a lot of them. He was picked up by a family member who was on her way to baseball practice. His way to baseball practice. But he took him where he wanted to go. Who do you think that describes? Wayne.
Francis.
Francis.
So when Dwayne get the prize for guessing there, you better come up and pick a prize.
That's right. Wayne.
I want to know where you wanted to go.
He wanted to go to Harrison, I think, to Lee and Mary, didn't he? Was it Dave?
Yeah, it was Dave.
I remember that.
But now you gotta guess who picked him up.
Well, you said going to baseball practice, that had to be Harlan.
I think it happened on Dwayne's birthday because we were celebrating Dwayne's birthday. My folks were over having a wiener roast, and then we found out that they were looking for David Ward. To find him. And that was on Dwayne's birthday. I remember that, August 22.
Okay, so who was it actually that filled the card out? Or maybe
It was Francis.
Francis, okay. So do we have any notable events within Francis' family that are, well, I've got Joyce's Jocelyn, is that a son of Jocelyn? Would be 52, who would have turned 50 some class time, but they're probably not here. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Now I got another prize though. For which one of the ladies has come tonight with a skirt that comes closest to their cover their ankles? And this is a significant story because some of you have seen this picture, and it'll be around to see if you can think. This is the 10 uncles and aunts, all 10 of them, with their spouses lined up. And what you can probably see it from there, all of the skirts are exactly the same way. Now, I don't know exactly what year this is. Somebody probably does. It must be right around 1960, someplace in that.
1967.
67?
Because Karen was born in June, and I was at the reunion that day, and Karen wasn't at the reunion because I was born to Sharon that day. And that was 1967.
1967. Okay, I thought maybe there wouldn't be anybody here with skirts on, the way things are nowadays. But we do have some. So I think any of the ladies, well, anybody.
All the ladies that have skirts on, stand up.
Well, anybody with a skirt on. Maybe we got to line them up here, and then we can judge to which one.
Dress, skirt, whatever.
But yeah, whatever. Sure, the dresses are parts of the skirt. So then, who's going to
stand in a row and we're going to vote.
I don't need to get up there.
Does it count in the front or the back?
We'll let them judge. Okay, so which one comes closest to covering the ankles?
We have any skirts?
Okay, with the applause meter, is that how we do it? Well, how many think this one? Okay. How many think this one? Or maybe I got to point down here. Okay, how many of this one? Okay. Well, then we run the back question. We'll see what the audience thinks. So how many think this one does? Yay! You can turn around. Well, I think, do we have a winner? Yes.
I think number 3 won.
Okay, you get to pick a prize.
Superman's mom.
Okay, that picture's, and I think there are extra copies here. If you haven't seen it, that's, there. Better pull another card. By the way, how are we doing? Are we getting close enough? We have a little bit of time before your bedtime yet that we can finish these? Oh, he's reading cards this year.
I think this card game's kind of fun. I'm really glad it's not very many more people turning in cards. Okay, this card says, what do you remember of Grandpa's peppermint jar? I have a letter in September 1940. Who wrote that?
Yes, yeah, who's the guess? Who's going to guess who wrote that?
Who do you think wrote that?
Who's that? Well, you got to raise your hand, not speak. Raise your hand so we can.
You know what? The way this is written, I think we should have the person who wrote it come up and tell us about Grandpa's peppermint jar.
Okay, so we can figure out who wrote
and
it.
then after they get up here and tell about it, then we'll figure out who they are.
Okay, we can do that. All right.
All right, guilty?
Yeah, I wondered if how of what I call myself the grandchild knew Grandpa had a peppermint jar. many remember that peppermint jar? And how many got a peppermint out of that jar that Grandpa gave them? And how many got a peppermint out of that jar when Grandma gave it to you? The special thing to the peppermint jar to me was when Grandpa went outside to hear the news in his new Studebaker, because he could hear it better than in his big radio, and if we were there, then there was a lot of noise in the house. And while Grandpa was out listening to the news in the Studebaker, Grandma would give us a white peppermint out of Grandpa's peppermint jar. And I think Sarah, Francis and I have talked about that sometimes when we came from a distance, there were things that we did with them that the ones that lived closer never had part of. I think we've talked about, because that's what brought the peppermint jar to my mind. We enjoyed playing in groves, in the playhouse that was in the grove, and those that were closer by really never played in that play yard. Do you remember playing in the playground with me?
Every time it got noisy in the house, Grandpa got nervous. And so Grandma set up a place to play outside. But what I want to know is how many people got a peppermint out of the peppermint jar that wasn't given to them back either.
If you admit it, you don't get a prize.
And I was going to say the other part of that question was, I have a letter, and I know that Aunt Elsa has several and brought a few of them also. But I have one that my dad wrote to Aunt Katie, and I won't read the entire thing, but I thought it was kind of interesting. He says, this was September 4, 1940. At that time, I was just past 1 year old, and we had moved from Monroe to Westfield. And he says, dear sister Katie, congratulations with your birthday. I hope to remember that you have a birthday Saturday. I believe I forgot about it last year, so I thought I better write right away. I hope it may be a happy birthday for you and that you may enjoy many more in good health. You must be about 21. I can't figure it out positively. It may be 22. I can still recall that driving...
He was always had trouble with that.
and thinking the size of the family, I thought it was kind of interesting. Are you 21 or are you 22? I might have forgot last year. And I can still recall that during the World War, each family was allotted just so much sugar per month per member. And I remember that we went to Harrison and asked for an additional portion because we had a baby at our house. It is strange how some of those things make an impression on our memories. I guess that we will have to address the letter to Orange City. Ma said you plan to leave this week. How does it seem to be back in school? I hope you enjoy your schoolwork. I guess most of the students will be strange to you. It will be about an entire new group. And then he goes on to, but I thought the conversation with Aunt Katie was interesting to me, but giving a little bit of an idea of what the family was like when, you know, the older ones, my dad was third from the oldest, and Katie third from the end, so there was quite a few years between.
And I'm just noticing here special events. Dean and Candy would have celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary this year, which is quite laudable. And then also I better remember that Fran celebrated her 50th anniversary this past year. So I think she deserves a heart, don't you? She still sweeps me off my feet, I guess.
Adrian's a member of the Kiwanis Club in Mason City, where they live. And he went to the club, and as is custom, you pay $5, and then you get to make an announcement of some happy, nice thing that happened. And I didn't know 50 years, but Adrian said, it was my wedding anniversary yesterday. And one of his Kiwanian brothers said, well, how many years? And he said, we've had 32 good years.
Okay, I better read this one. Our family is the 4th and 5th generation to live on our farm. I am the youngest of the youngest. Golf is a great pastime, and our family enjoys it. We all own a set of golf clubs. My father-in-law was Paul Pasture Pool, so that would fit into this.
Marley.
Marley the golfer? All right. There we go. So I guess we get a prize if we're the guesses. So come on up and pick a prize. Very good. Let's see. Are there other special events that we haven't picked up from within the family there? Michael has a birthday that ends in 0 or 5, or did since last year, or since the last anniversary. He was 16 now. Is he here? Okay. Maybe you better bring him a prize. Yeah. Okay. All right. What do you have on the card for you?
All of our children were salutatorians of their high school class.
They were all homeschooled.
Harlan and Bonnie's kids.
Very good. That's
all right, great. So Mary gets a prize.
That's right. You get one. Come on out and take a prize. There.
And was there more than one in each class? 2.
A little bit like the story.
No, there was, it was their high school class. 20 to 25 here in Corsica.
Very good.
So it put a lot of pressure on the last one.
Yeah.
They got the smarts from their mother.
Oh, that's great. Oh, you got that.
That's a good helper there. Ready for another card? Okay.
I used to live in Costa Rica. 2 of our children were born in New York. Of my wife's great-grandparents, 6 out of 8 can be traced back to 2 villages in rural Poland or Germany near the border.
Gideon, who is it? Daniel, yeah. I guess we have a couple of roads in here, so we got, come on in, get a prize, Gideon. All right?
Good job.
Yeah. That's right. So get some of them, and they're some of them beyond the cousins, and that's all right. We want to learn about the other generations too. There.
I know who the Wolbrink uncle was who didn't like to have his picture taken in the family group picture. the picture that included the Wolbrink siblings. Who, I guess the question is, which uncle didn't like to have his picture taken?
And who knows that? But yeah, that'd be
Sarah's got
Well,
it.
I know Uncle Orville is hiding on one picture, and I think it's this one right here.
this.
The picture that I have here.
Oh.
He's hiding.
You have to hear the rest of the story.
This one's the rest.
You have to hear the rest of the story, she said.
Yeah.
Merlin took that photo and photoshopped Dad's face into it later on. So the original picture, you cannot see that. But if he's on here, that's the one that Merlin doctored up.
Very good. Okay. That's great. Well, who gets the prize here? We have Merlin gets the prize.
Merlin gets a prize for the photoshopping.
Yeah, that's right.
Sarah gets a prize for revealing
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
And I think Bonnie should have 2 prizes for cooking. She's finally getting to eat.
Okay, what do you have? Got another card? Sure.
What family went on a weekend trip to the Black Hills and the youngest slept in a bed made in a dresser drawer? Who taught Bible school where she had to rattle the toilet door before going in and look in the rafters and in the toilet holes for rattlesnakes before being seated? So what do you think that's about?
Daniel has rattlesnake stories from the Black Hills. They're not.
Is that Sarah? All right. Another prize.
There we go. Darlene slept in the dresser drawer.
Darlene was a baby when we went to the Black Hills weekend, and Darlene, they made a bed for her in the dresser drawer, but there was 5 more of us inside.
That was in the days before the camper. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Which person was upset because they were not invited to the very first cousin reunion, which happened to be in 1993?
Yeah, that's the way we remember it. It was 1993.
Okay, which cousin was upset because they weren't invited? I didn't know about it. Is there a cousin here who was not invited?
Wasn't Aunt Alpha or Mom? I don't think the brothers and sisters were invited the first round, were they?
No, we weren't.
Okay, that may be. I think that remember that the cousins had their reunion and young Lance wanted to go to it. Was that
The one that wanted.
Yeah.
When Alan, Jim, and I had organized it, and it was cousins on Friday night, and then we had the usual picnic for everybody else.
On Saturday. Right.
But that was the first attempt to get cousins there.
Right. Yeah, which was a neat thing. Right. Let's see. So Bonnie gets a prize here. Is that right? She guessed. She guessed that.
I don't know which one.
Well, was it you that wrote the card then? Or,
No,
oh,
no.
nobody will admit and write the name.
Thanks for explaining it.
Yeah, that's right. But we haven't figured out who actually wrote that.
We got to get rid of these prizes before 9:30 because they close this place.
So, we haven't figured out who actually wrote the card there.
I wrote the card.
Merlin did. Okay. Very good. He's got the numbers. Well, he for sure gets a prize here. That's pretty good. That's good.
And
Well, that's where in the family there has heard the story about it. That's a pretty good memory.
We didn't get it. Who was, what cousin?
The one, and it wasn't a cousin, it was an uncle.
Oh,
And he was the most upset.
oh.
Uncle Junior wanted to be there. Because he grew up with some of the oldest cousins.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, one more card here. Okay. We'll mix that.
Okay. Here's a good one. My husband did not know until we were married that my paternal grandma and his paternal grandpa were stepbrother and stepsister. What do you think that was that did not, whose husband did not know that their grandparents were more or less brother and sister? Wow.
Anybody guess who wrote that one? Well, at least it narrows it down, so it's my husband did not. So it's one of the lady cousins who.
It was a lady that wrote it.
Yeah.
I was not necessarily a cousin, but a lady.
Okay.
Unless no.
So we don't have a guess who wrote it.
Okay, everybody gives up, right? What's the answer?
So who wrote it?
Who's got it? Oh, Bonnie's got it. This is gonna take microphone explanation.
Okay, it's really confusing, so if you have any questions, just talk to me later, but my husband's grandpa Fred lost his father in the Netherlands and his mother, and they already had tickets bought, and his father was remarried, so he came to the United States with his stepmother, and my grandma, DeVore, had lost her mother, so his step-great-grandmother and my step-great-grandfather got married, so they actually lived together for a while in the same house as step-siblings, and the connection, when Grandpa Fred was like 14, he more or less was on his own, which happened quite often. But Uncle Junior told Larry this later on, that when Grandpa Jacob was on a threshing crew with Grandpa Fred, Grandpa Jacob was that much older, but he also knew what it felt like to kind of be out on his own really young. And the foreman of the crew put Grandpa Fred on the straw pile, which was the worst job to keep up with, and Grandpa Jacob could see that he was having trouble, so he moved him off. It was like he knew what he was going through.
Took care of it.
He moved him off the straw pile and gave him a different job. So it's
That's
kind
a
of
neat
neat,
story,
the
though.
connection.
Yeah, that is a neat story. That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That is fun. You know, we appreciate, you know, lives didn't last as long as they did back then as they do now. So a lot of coming and going, and we've lost some cousins and so on too, but things would step in and help that way. That's pretty neat. Okay, what you got?
My cousin came to visit me on my 11th birthday. I was bringing him back I was bringing him back to
Grandpa and Grandma.
Grandpa and Grandma. Okay, I was bringing him back on the bicycle to Grandpa and Grandma. Motorist stopped and scolded me for being on the road. My cousin was so scared that he ran all the way back, and we never got to say goodbye.
And the rest of the story is that he won't let me forget that I forgot to say goodbye for these 60-some years. That was Harold and I, which really were best buddies and still are. That's right. Yeah, you get a prize for bringing that story. Well, I was kind of a city boy, living in the big town of Edgerton. So, coming out here in the country, I'd heard about gypsies and things like that. I didn't know who these strange characters were that are driving around like that. Didn't necessarily look clean shaven. And
it was a neighbor that I knew.
I didn't know what they were going to do. I had heard about it. I remember the episode too.
We were married on the hottest day of the year, August 19-something or other, in Parker. Our first home was a trailer. Now, 50 years later, we still live in a trailer. We have now had 4 generations within the Wolbrink family attend the same college. It doesn't say it's the same trailer.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, they still live in a trailer. Yeah, which one, which place, and how many homes do they have?
Okay, got it, right.
Yeah, Phyllis gets the prize there. There we go.
Right.
There we go.
2 more.
All right. Can you stay awake that long?
It's not a question of whether I stay.
Oh, okay.
It's a question of whether they stay.
Okay.
And this is another one that's similar. 4th generation family on a home farm. 75% of the family attend the same school. 3 out of 4. 4th generation farming on a home farm.
I'm going to say Aunt Sarah. The Deemsters.
Yeah, that's right. We had a little wrong information and we filled out a card to the cousin.
Well, that's still fun information. All right. That's right. That's good.
Give them a prize.
Yeah, that's right. Come and get a prize. Better come on. We got.
On the back of this card it says 86 minus 37 is 52.
Well, that's a clue there for who's now hasn't been no long time.
When my dad, one of the brothers, went to college in 1934, 80 years ago, his 3 friends would attend church, and then they were invited to my spouse's grandparents' home for dinner. Of course, they accepted the invitation for a good meat and potato meal. My spouse and I met 32 years later and heard the story. What do you think about that? Wow, what a good story. This group is better at writing cards than solving.
Irene.
Is that Irene? All right.
Irene wrote it?
Yeah, very good.
All right.
Very good.
Adrian, do you have one in a pocket or something? One maybe hasn't been covered?
Or is it just to reveal some dirt? There were some that we set aside because we thought they were not appropriate for a mixed audience.
I have given you some of these, but I'm sure I passed them all on. I don't think it was given.
Well, if I'm missing one, through everything else that's possible. I don't see one here. Is there a good story that we need to hear from somebody that did write one?
Well, there were a couple laying over here.
Oh, okay.
So, I know where I found them. I know where Mike told me they were. So I want you to know that it wasn't Adrian's fault. My siblings and I all have spouses who were raised in the Christian Reformed Church.
Oh, we've got three hands up all at the same time. So who is it? Dwayne. No, okay. Dwayne has.
That's why he had that knowing look.
Yeah. All right. So those hands all went up at the same time here. So you better come up and get a prize. There. Okay. We got one more clue here.
The last one. I, my spouse, my children, all of their spouses, and all of the grandchildren all live in the same state which we were born in. I think that's my family, state of confusion.
This is not a state of misery, huh? I gave you some statistics just in the last couple of days ago that happiest state out of the 50 is North Dakota, and the second happiest is South Dakota. We could see reason for some of that. So did we get a...
No answers yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoever wrote the card, whisper to the person next to them, and then go across the table and whisper.
Does Ruth have a guess there?
Oh. Dwayne. All South Dakota.
That's quite a record there. So Ruth is surprised there.
All right.
Now, so we're going to test your knowledge or memories here. I don't think we had any Generation 6 people here tonight. Are there any, how many Generation 5 people are here tonight? They're still here. Oh, I know the hour's gotten a little long. Okay. Generation 5 people, all stand up. And you all get to come and get a prize.
Boy, they hung in there pretty good for a long time.
That's right. I think it's probably time to take pictures. I think seeing the hour, I think we might just turn on the video and people can watch it while we're taking pictures. But that really is kind of a neat tradition to get this group of pictures that we have. And as Harold, our official photographer tonight, why don't you coordinate it over here? And anybody else that has cameras can join them too. But why don't we probably go down the list, and anybody who's here from Richard's family, where's it? You decide where a good place is. There is. It might kind of make it clear wall over there.